After my wife Mary once again left me for the male lead, George, and didn't come home all night, I realized that I had failed my mission. Faced with the system's cold mockery, I was ready to accept my punishment. To my surprise, after waiting and waiting, what I received was the news that Mary had been diagnosed with cancer. Surprised or not, delighted or not, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the food on the table had long gone cold, but Mary, who had promised to come home to celebrate my birthday, still hadn't returned. Countless calls I made were all hung up. I persisted until a man finally answered. "We're all adults here. Don't you understand what it means when someone doesn't answer the phone?" How boring his tone was, dismissive, laced with a hint of smugness, a blatant provocation. That voice was very familiar to me. It was Frank, the unattainable white moonlight of Mary. My throat felt as if it were choked, and it took me a long time to spit out a sentence. "Where's Mary?" The man on the other end chuckled lightly and handed the phone to someone else. Soon, Mary's voice came through the line. "George, I have something to do tonight and won't be coming back. You should rest and not wait for me. Today is my birthday. You promised to come back and celebrate with me," I said, feeling a bit sad. She impatiently interrupted me. "Birthdays come every year. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. I really have some things to take care of tonight, George. Don't hold me up." That sharp pain pierced my heart. Delay. What could I possibly delay? Am I delaying you from sleeping with Frank? Mary, on the other end, seemed to be deeply humiliated. "George, you're going too far." She raised her voice as if that would suppress her guilt and panic. "Don't insult the feelings between me and Frank. We are childhood friends, good friends. Do you know that right now you sound like a jealous woman, suspicious and paranoid? Please, you're a grown man. Can't you be a bit more open-minded? It's really impossible to reason with you." She hung up the phone. I called back, but the other side was already turned off. Holding my phone, I sat dazed at the dining table, a feeling of helplessness washing over me. I let out a bitter laugh a couple of times. In the end, I still failed the mission to win over Mary. After binding to the system, I realized that the world I live in is a novel. The male lead is Frank, the heir of the Anthony Group. My wife Mary is the male lead's first love and his deeply cherished supporting character. As for me, I am merely a background character in the love-hate entanglement of the three of them. In the original storyline, Mary has had a crush on the male lead for a long time, but he has always seen her as a sister. He has his destined female lead, and after meeting Lily, he falls in love. As the female supporting character, Mary loves in vain but does not engage in any mindless or malicious actions. Instead, she becomes a good friend to Lily. She buries her feelings deep inside, and after the male and female leads have understandings and arguments, she mediates between them to clarify their misunderstandings. It can be said that without Mary, the male lead would have to endure a long and torturous path to pursue the female lead. The ending of the novel is that the male and female protagonists enter the hall of marriage and have a pair of twins, a boy and a girl, enjoying the joy of having both sons and daughters, while Mary remains single, always guarding the male and female protagonists. It is her deep and unwavering love that evokes sympathy from a large number of readers who feel sorry for her and voice their discontent on her behalf. That is, I was chosen by the system to become the tool to warm Mary. Originally, my task was to marry her, providing the readers with a perfect side story ending so I could retire successfully. However, during the course of the task, I fell in love with the deeply affectionate and resilient Mary. Although I knew she chose to marry me just to reassure the male and female leads, I still willingly accepted it and actively requested the system to extend this task indefinitely because I wanted to spend my life with her. The system warned me that human hearts are hard to gauge and that a sycophant would not end well, so I should quickly take the money and withdraw to live my own peaceful life. I didn't listen. In fact, to be with Mary, I actively gave up the original task bonus of over 100 million. After calling me an idiot, the system fell silent and withdrew from my life. From then on, the novel's epilogue has ended, but our story continues. Behind every fairy tale, there are probably the trivialities of marriage. After Lily gave birth to Frank's child, she suffered from postpartum depression, and the relationship between the main characters began to show cracks. Their arguments gradually increased in frequency, and Mary's attitude also began to change. The problems between Frank and Lily gave Mary a glimmer of hope for advancement. She stood by the male and female leads, but this time she no longer mediated between the two as she did in the main text of the novel. On the male lead side, she accused the female lead of being inconsiderate and not understanding him. On the female lead side, she claimed the male lead was a typical man, objectifying women, and that the female lead was merely his tool for reproduction. Lily trusted Mary too much, so she listened to Mary's instigation and became increasingly irritable when facing Frank. Meanwhile, Mary remained as gentle and considerate towards Frank as ever, deeply affectionate and unrepentant. 5 years after the timeline of the novel's conclusion was pushed forward, Frank and Mary finally both cheated, using the guise of being close childhood friends to get into bed together. The long-absent system voice once again echoed in my ears. I don't know if it's my illusion, but it sounded somewhat gleeful. I told you long ago a simp will meet a bad end. Look at you two, married for only 3 years, and Mary has already. She feels no guilt towards you. You gave up over 100 million in bonuses for her. Do you regret it? What good is it to say regret now? I can only accept the consequences of my choices. I chuckled self-deprecatingly. What punishment? Come on, I'm already prepared. I closed my eyes, originally thinking it would be like the agreement I made with the system back in the day, that failure would result in immediate erasure. However, I waited for half a day, and there was no response at all. I opened my eyes and called out, "System, are you still there?" My voice echoed in the empty living room, but the system remained silent. It seemed as if it had never existed, as if that mocking remark just now was a figment of my imagination. I sat on the sofa in confusion. So where is my punishment? When Mary came back, it was already 11 o'clock in the morning. She looked at the empty dining table and frowned. Why isn't there any food? The system suddenly disappeared, and the impending punishment occupied most of my thoughts. So much so that when I caught a glimpse of the ambiguous red marks on Mary's neck and collarbone, I felt no extra emotions. Let's get a divorce. I was tired and just wanted to find a place where no one knew me to quietly wait for death. Mary, are you out of your mind? She looked irritated. Is it because I didn't come home last night? George, can't you be less petty? Frank is my childhood friend, and he's your friend too. He's having some issues with Lily right now, and we need to help him through it. I pointed to the marks on her neck. All right, just save the grandstanding for yourself. Cover it up a bit. It was then that Mary realized something, her expression turning ugly. After a few minutes of silence, she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and put on a look of resignation. Yes, we slept together last night. So what? I found it ridiculous. She had been with another man and was asking me what to do. Since you're back, let's go register for a divorce later. There was no need for extra words at this point. We would part ways. She would go find her Frank, and I would bear the consequences of my failed mission. After all, who asked me to willingly play the fool in the first place? I thought Mary would agree readily, but to my surprise, she flatly refused. No. I looked at her in astonishment. Mary avoided my gaze. Frank hasn't divorced Lily yet. If we get divorced now, Frank will think I have ulterior motives, and Lily will suspect me. So what? Frank uses her as a tool for his desires, and she willingly plays the role of a mistress while being married. Am I just supposed to be this shield? The green-eyed monster? Damn it! Mary is absolutely unwilling to get a divorce, but I am not happy about it, and we had our first argument since getting married. Mary sneered, George, get this straight, marrying me is not a loss for you. Without me, you'd be stuck working for others your whole life. Do you think you could ever become the vice president of a company? It's laughable. Vice president, I'm not just working for a company. When I was tirelessly helping the company attract investments and clients, where was her gratitude? Don't forget, I'm the general manager of the company. If you really want a divorce, I can make the assets negative, and you won't even be able to walk away with anything. You don't want to be a debtor who can't pay their debts. Damn it, she threatened me. I knew it all along. The deeply affectionate female supporting characters in novels only have feelings for the male lead. For someone like me, an NPC tool, all she has is ruthlessness. Seeing that I was so angry I couldn't speak, Mary softened her expression again. She handed a sweet date to me and said, "George, when the time is right, I will naturally get a divorce. At that time, I will compensate you with a large sum of money. I know you have treated me well over the years, and I don't want to shortchange you." Okay, you big-headed ghost. I'm almost dead. What good is money? I left the marital home I shared with Mary in silence and returned to my old home in the countryside. If I weren't worried about suddenly kicking the bucket, I would definitely seek revenge on Mary and Frank for their shamelessness. Mary interpreted my leaving as a tantrum, and when I didn't return home for a while, she sent me a message, "You've been gone for a week now. There should be a limit to throwing a tantrum. You won't come home, and you aren't going to work either? Are you afraid that others won't know there's a problem in our marriage? There have been rumors in the board lately. There's a business dinner next Wednesday. You need to come back and accompany me." The tone of her command seemed to assume that I would definitely agree. I was just about to reply to her to get as far away as possible when a phone call came in. "Is this Mr. George? This is the Health Check Center of the United Hospital. Is your wife, Miss Mary, with you? We have called her many times, but she hasn't answered." What was the Health Check Center calling for? I suddenly remembered that half a month ago, I had dragged Mary to the hospital for a checkup because she kept saying her stomach was uncomfortable, always bloated, and had no appetite. But she was afraid of having a gastrointestinal examination, so I told her I would go with her, and that's how she agreed to go to the hospital with me. We were supposed to pick up the report in a couple of days, but then Frank called to complain that he and Lily had quarreled again and wanted to go abroad to clear his mind. Without a second thought, Mary booked a ticket and chased after Frank to the Maldives. At that moment, I felt both sour and pained, and the checkup was pushed to the back of my mind. The Health Check Center just called. Is there a problem? My heart sank. The punishment the system gave me. It can't be that I'm going to die of cancer, right? Damn, that would be too painful. I don't want that. Your health check report is all normal. The problem is with Ms. Mary. She's already in the stage of stomach cancer. Please take her to the hospital for further examination and treatment as soon as possible. Huh, Mary. Late stage of stomach cancer? I was shocked. You must be mistaken. Is it really Mary? I asked the other party. The voice on the other end was filled with sympathy. Mr. George, although it is hard to accept this fact, your partner indeed has cancer, and it has already spread to multiple organs. Please come to the hospital so the doctor can explain the situation to you in person. Her condition cannot be delayed any longer. I hung up the phone, still in a daze. How could Mary have cancer? Ding, 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 ding. Surprise. The elusive system suddenly appeared, its cheerful voice ringing in my ears. So, are you surprised? Is it a shock? What is going on? Did you cause Mary to get cancer? Yep. Why? I'm the one who failed the mission. Shouldn't I be the one punished? That's seriously calling you isn't unfair at all. Are you really feeling sorry for Mary? If I punish her... The system paused for 2 seconds, then raised its voice as if daring me to say yes or it would kill me. No, no, no. You misunderstood. Mary has cancer, and this outcome is just perfect. But what's my punishment? This is it. The system explained in a sarcastic tone. You failed your mission, so I punish the person you love by making her die. You lose your beloved forever. Isn't that the most devastating blow for like you? What a cruel punishment. I quickly covered my mouth, afraid that if I hesitated even a little, I would burst out laughing. So does this mean I won't die? The gloomy mood that had lingered for so long suddenly cleared up. I immediately packed my things and prepared to go back. Before going home, I first went to the hospital to collect the report and diagnosis. When the doctor showed me the report, his tone was heavy as he told me that Mary's condition had already lost the opportunity and significance for surgery. We will first assess her physical condition to see if chemotherapy can be done. If the situation is optimistic, it might be around 6 months, but there is also the possibility of sudden deterioration, and at that point, her survival period could be uncertain. I returned home with her diagnosis, and to my surprise, Mary was there. When she saw me come back, her previously furrowed brows relaxed, and a look of "I knew it" appeared on her face. "You're back. Since you're here, stop causing trouble. If you behave, I'll give you another 5% of the company's shares. Just don't let me hear you mention divorce again. Hey, Mary is in the late stages. Who knows when she might die? I must be out of my mind to even think about divorce. Okay, I want a divorce. Mary let out a disdainful snort from her nose, and I immediately dismissed the thought of telling her about her condition. But seeing her move around freely, aside from being a bit emaciated and having a slightly yellowish complexion, she looked no different from a normal person, which made me wonder inside, is she really someone who is about to die? System heard my inner voice and quietly said in my ear, if you don't treat her, at most in 2 months her organs will start to fail, and by then even God won't be able to save her. Whether you say it or not won't change her outcome. Prepare for the dinner next Wednesday. The CEO of Digger Industries ASA will be there. He particularly loves to drink, and whether the company's revenue can break through in the second half of the year depends on whether you can win him over. Seeing that I was silent, Mary frowned again. Don't throw a tantrum. Keep business and personal matters separate. I hope you won't let my relationship with Frank affect the company's affairs. I took a deep breath and forced a smile. Okay, I understand. After all, once she passes away, I, as her spouse, will inherit the company. If I quit now, the losses will still be my money. So for the sake of the company's development, I'll endure it. Satisfied with my agreement, Mary left. The banquet soon arrived as scheduled. Mary linked her arm with mine as we entered the venue, nodding in greeting to the guests present. Frank, as the heir of the Anthony Group, naturally attended with his wife, Lily. Seeing Lily in a high-end custom gown, looking glamorous as she stood beside Frank receiving compliments from everyone, Mary's expression darkened, and she tightened her grip on my arm. I simply withdrew my arm. The CEO is over there. We'll go ahead. Mary was momentarily taken aback, and before she could respond, I had already walked quickly to the other side. Over the years, I've learned how to impress a CEO like him, a heavy drinker. After a few drinks, the prospects for collaboration start to emerge. As I casually turned my head, I saw that Mary had already walked over to Frank, while Lily was dismissed by a few words from Frank, standing alone and forlorn, watching Frank and Mary navigate the social scene with ease. I recalled that the last time I saw Lily was 3 years ago when she had just given birth to twins. Frank's family threw a grand celebration for the twins' full moon. Lily, who had just given birth, was still a bit plump, but in just 3 short years, she had gone from being round and radiant to looking like a mere shadow. No matter how expensive the jewelry and elegant dresses, they couldn't hide the gloom and weariness in Lily's eyes. Over the years, she had been trapped at home by Frank, losing her career and becoming a full-time housewife whose life revolved solely around the children. Lily hadn't appeared in social situations for a long time. At this business dinner, without Frank by her side, no one would take the initiative to chat with her. Frank had truly changed his heart. Otherwise, in the past, the male lead would never have let his destined female lead fall into such an awkward situation. Compared to Lily's current plight, I suddenly felt that I, as a mere tool, wasn't the worst off. Feeling a sense of pity, I decided to help Lily. Seeing Frank and Mary socializing for a while, I took the opportunity to sneak into the... I lounged on the second floor when no one was paying attention. I immediately waved over a waiter, slipped him a few $100 bills, and asked him to tell Lily what was happening here. Soon, Lily came upstairs holding her dress, her face dark and her demeanor fierce. She stormed into the lounge, and immediately the room was filled with the sharp screams of women and the angry shouts of men. Lily, are you crazy? Am I crazy, Frank? Don't turn this around on me. Are you that desperate? Can't you even resist sleeping with women at the party? Mary and I were just discussing business. What do you know, huh? Right, I don't understand business, but can someone please tell me, does discussing business require taking off your clothes? Are you guys talking about a flesh trade or what? Soon, the argument attracted a crowd, and there was no shortage of onlookers from all walks of life quickly filling the entrance of the lounge to capacity. I squeezed in and saw Mary with her hair disheveled, clear scratch marks on her neck, and the straps of her dress torn apart, leaving her to cover her chest with both hands to avoid exposure. It was evident that Lily had been ruthless, and Frank didn't fare any better. He sat on the sofa with an obviously red handprint on his face, angrily avoiding both Lily and the disheveled Mary. What a scumbag! Upon seeing me, Lily sneered, "George, you're just in time. Your wife is cheating with my husband. What do you have to say?" Mary suddenly looked up, her face turning pale. "George." I looked at her coldly. Lily saw Mary with her tearful expression and felt a surge of anger. She once again grabbed Mary by the hair. "You really are something else. When your husband wasn't around, you had mine looking like this, and now that your husband is here, you're putting on this pathetic act again. I must have been blind to consider someone like you a white lotus, green tea, a good friend." Mary covered her loosened dress with both hands, unable to fight back, and could only endure Lily's hitting and scolding. Finally, she couldn't help but plead for my help. "George, darling, please pull Lily away. She's gone crazy." I looked at Frank, who was beside me, visibly irritated and silent. "Aren't you going to stop your wife from hitting your childhood friend?" Frank scoffed. "Boring." Then he stood up and shouted at the onlookers by the door, "What the hell are you all staring at? Get lost." With Frank, the young master of the family, speaking up, the crowd quickly dispersed in twos and threes. He walked to the door impatiently, turned to Lily, and said, "Wife, aren't you leaving yet?" Lily had slapped Mary several times, leaving her face swollen. Hearing Frank call her, she coldly released her grip and said, "So what if you came to me? Look at that. When trouble arises, he doesn't even bother to stand up for you. If I were you, I'd just commit suicide." Lily let go of Mary, took a couple of steps back, and caught up with Frank. Mary stared blankly at Frank's indifferent back, her face pale and sorrowful. Softly, I asked her, "Is this the man you've been chasing for years? Was it worth it?" Tears streamed down Mary's face, and then she coughed twice, followed by a gasp as she spat out a mouthful of blood. She was so shocked that she covered her chest with one hand and held the blood clots with the other. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. I still called for an ambulance, and Mary was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. After over 5 hours, she finally pulled through. But when a surgeon came out, he shook his head at me. When we opened her up, it was all tumors inside. We removed the one that had ruptured, but there was really nothing we could do about the others. If the tumors hadn't ruptured, there might have been a chance with chemotherapy or targeted therapy, he said as he patted my shoulder. You family members should prepare for the worst. Mary woke up on the 3rd day after the surgery only to learn the terrible news that her time was running out. She was completely devastated. I didn't have time to comfort her. The shareholders of the company were already somewhat resentful towards Mary due to the scandal from the banquet that night. If news of her impending death were to break, the company would likely be torn apart in no time. I made a quick decision to return to the company to take charge while I called for a caregiver to look after Mary. Everyone knows how hard I've worked for the company over the years for Mary, so after the banquet incident, I directly took over as CEO in her place. The shareholders couldn't openly say much, but there were plenty of behind-the-scenes maneuvers. Fortunately, I anticipated this in advance and used my wits to outsmart these seasoned players, which helped stabilize the situation and prevented those with ulterior motives from taking advantage. After the company's situation stabilized, I went to the hospital to see Mary. In just half a month, Mary had lost so much weight that she looked emaciated, yet her belly had swollen up, resembling that of a pregnant woman. Her complexion was waxy yellow, like a human skeleton. The nurse told me that after her surgery, she had developed a large amount of abdominal fluid and could no longer eat. Every time she tried, she would vomit. She could only receive nutritional injections to maintain her bodily functions, and most of the time during the day, she was in a deep sleep. The nurse, who had seen many such cases in the cancer hospital, said, "Boss, patients with cancer usually end up suffering until the end. Your wife is in that state now. If the nutritional fluids and liver and stomach protection medications are stopped, she might not last long. I think it's pointless to keep her in the hospital. It might be better to take her home." When Mary woke up, I asked for her opinion. Mary was very angry, weakly pounding the bed. "It's impossible. I can't have just a few months left. I want to have surgery. I want chemotherapy." As she spoke, she began to cry. I thought Mary was unable to understand the doctor's explanation. Rather, who would want to believe that their time was short? "I just want to live." As Mary cried, she felt nauseous and started to vomit again, this time with traces of blood. After the nurse cleaned her up again, She seemed to lose all her spirit. After a long while, Mary asked me, "George, do you think this is God's punishment for me? Punishing me for disappointing your feelings? Punishing me for taking away a good friend's husband?" She murmured to herself, then gave a self-deprecating smile. "What do you mean by taking away Frank? He never agreed to be with me. I was just too foolish that I announced on social media that Mary had cancer, and gradually people came to visit her. Even Lily came to the hospital out of humanitarian concern, but Frank hasn't shown up even once. When Lily came, Mary talked to her alone for half an hour. Afterward, Lily came out with red eyes and looked at me. "George, is there really no chance for Mary?" I nodded. She studied my expression, hesitating. "Aren't you at all sad or upset? Do you not love her anymore?" I chuckled. "Sad? Upset? Perhaps a little, but that's just my own conscience. Love, that thing, was gone long ago when she flew into the fire chasing after Frank." Lily seemed to perceive this. When I sent her downstairs and returned to the ward, Mary looked at me and suddenly said, "I regret it." She said this out of the blue and then fell silent again. I no longer responded to her as I used to. Since she wasn't speaking, I wouldn't bring up any topics either. After a day of fluids, Mary looked at her veins, so thin they were almost invisible, and finally accepted the fact that she was about to pass away with calmness. "George, take me home. In these last few days, I don't want to stay in the hospital." I brought Mary back to our original wedding house. It was as if she had a moment of clarity. Suddenly, she could eat a few bites, and her mental state improved significantly. She took the initiative to call her assistant and lawyer and wrote her will in advance, leaving everything in the company to me. Mary struggled to sign her name and press her thumbprint on the will. After completing all of this, she seemed to have relieved herself of a great burden and let out a sigh. After waving for everyone else to leave, she stopped me and said, "George, in these final moments, let's have a chat." A faint smile appeared on her emaciated face. "Actually, at the beginning, I did have a bit of fondness for you when we got married." I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Now that I think about it, if I had let go of my obsession earlier and focused on living a good life with you, would we have ended up here? I was too foolish, or perhaps unwilling to accept it. Clearly, I was the woman who spent the longest time by Frank's side. Why did he choose Lily, who is inferior in every way to me? Unfortunately, I understand all of this, but it's too late. I have let down those I shouldn't have, yet I gave my heart to someone unworthy. Tears glistened in the corners of Mary's eyes. "In the next life. I hope I never encounter Frank again. George, what do I owe you? I hope to compensate you a little through the company. George, in this life, I am sorry for you. If there is a day we meet again in the next life, let it be my turn to protect you." Her voice grew weaker and gradually fell into silence. I closed her unblinking eyes and sighed. "Forget it. In the next life, just be a normal person. No one needs you to protect them." Mary died, and for the sake of the company, I arranged a decent funeral for her while Frank didn't show up even once. It's a shame that Mary was the male lead's childhood sweetheart and had even slept with him for free so many times, yet he couldn't even show a little gratitude. What's even more shocking is that after Mary's funeral, Lily approached me and said that Frank had found another substitute for Mary outside. It's really hard to evaluate this. How could the plot of this novel fall apart like this? After the ending, Lily and I cried together, wiping away our tears. I've come to understand that Frank is just a selfish person. He loves no one. As long as someone can satisfy him, he'll be with them. Mary, who died for him, isn't worth it, and neither am I, who bore him children. She finally revealed her intention to team up with me to take revenge on Frank. We hit it off immediately. To be honest, I really wanted to deal with Frank. What man can tolerate wearing a green hat? But because he is the male lead, the protagonist of the world, I was afraid of being erased, so I kept holding back. However, the novel has long reached its grand conclusion, and even the epilogue has fallen apart. The deeply affectionate female supporting character can meet her end, and the male lead can also be brought down from his pedestal. Moreover, this was proposed by the female lead, Lily. I might as well take a gamble and see whether in this world the female lead wins or the male lead prevails in the end. Lily provided me with a wealth of internal information about the Anthony Group, and that's when I realized that Frank's position as the heir was actually quite precarious. The Anthony family is large and prosperous, with many younger members who are more outstanding than Frank. Moreover, the incident at the dinner where Mary and he were caught in their affair caused Frank to lose a lot of face in front of his father, which might be one of the reasons why Mary never got to see Frank even once before she died. So I approached Frank's uncle for collaboration. Mary is Frank's devoted female partner, so she originally founded the company to support Frank. The money that Frank made through investments in the group was all cleaned up by Mary using the company's accounts and then transferred to Frank's personal account. I only found this out after I took over the company. Partnering with Frank's uncle is also to avoid being accused by Frank one day with the evidence I provided regarding Frank's transfer of the group's assets. Frank's ambitious uncle directly exposed this matter at a board meeting, causing a major upheaval among the shareholders in order to give the shareholders an explanation. Frank's father immediately suspended all of Frank's positions after returning home. Frank's father was furious, scolding Frank for being short-sighted, saying that the entire group would eventually belong to him. So why steal money from within at such a time? Was the family lacking in food or clothing because of him? Lily told me that Frank's credit card had also been frozen, as his father was determined to punish him. At that time, I found a loved child of Frank's father and handed him over to Frank's uncle. They reached an agreement, and Frank's uncle took him back to Anthony's house to present him to Frank's father. This loved child was more sensible and obedient than Frank, and even smarter and more low-key. Gradually, he gained Frank's father's favor and was introduced to business partners at the group's annual meeting by Frank's father himself. After being sidelined for half a year, Frank could no longer tolerate his father's neglect. How could he, who had always been proud and ambitious, accept that everything he had was taken away by a bastard child? Thus, a scene unfolded. A frenzied Frank grabbed the knife from the table and charged at the illegitimate son. In a twist of fate, Frank's father stumbled and inadvertently blocked the way, resulting in Frank stabbing his own father in the abdomen with the knife he was holding. Frank's father was rushed to the hospital and saved just in time, but Frank was completely abandoned. Out of consideration for their father-son relationship, the incident was covered up and not reported. But Frank's father directly sent him to a mental hospital, believing that his son must be insane to commit such a heartless act in public. At this point, the illegitimate child, who formed an alliance with Uncle Frank, officially took power. Even if Frank was cured of his illness in the mental hospital, he would still be finished once he got out. Moreover, Lily had already made arrangements with the mental hospital, and the doctors inside would definitely treat Frank well. I asked Lily if she felt any remorse for what she was doing. Lily smiled. "I only wish his fate were worse, considering he is the child's father. This is already the best outcome. I completely took control of the company that Mary left me from this incident. From now on, this company, originally founded by Mary to serve Frank, will have no further connection with Frank." After Frank was sent to the mental hospital, Lily gradually stepped out from behind the scenes and into the spotlight. She picked up her former expertise and joined the Anthony Group, striving to secure a better future for her 2 children. 5 years later, Lily had risen to the position of Chief Financial Officer at the headquarters of the Anthony Group. While my company, through several years of sound management, saw its revenue increase year after year, my net worth had also jumped from the tens of millions to over. After 100 million, the system rewards I had initially turned down for Mary seemed to have returned to me in another form. Sometimes, Lily would invite me for a cup of coffee to talk about Frank's situation. The doctor told me that he has been having hallucinations for the past 2 years, always feeling that Mary is still by his side. Nowadays, when it comes to Frank, Lily, the former leading lady, is as calm as water, her expression showing no signs of disturbance. I want to see him, and it seems like he has returned to the time when he was young and with Mary, always calling out her nickname. Lily laughed. "Sometimes I feel like my whole life has been a dream. Logically speaking, someone like Frank is not someone I could ever fall in love with. How could I have been so foolish to insist on marrying him? He is not worth me having children for, nor is he worth Mary losing her life over." When Lily learned that Mary's condition had suddenly worsened due to a tumor rupture, she felt a deep sense of guilt. She always believed that if she hadn't kicked Mary that day, Mary wouldn't have passed away so soon. Although Mary forgave Lily for hitting her in her final moments, Lily still carried a heavy psychological burden. Later, she chose to take revenge on Frank, whether through collateral damage or out of resentment. But there was also a part of her that sought to avenge Mary. 10 years after Mary's death, Frank's uncle from the Anthony family took over as the head of the group. That winter, Frank died alone in a mental hospital. By then, Frank's father had long passed away, and his only relatives were Lily and their 2 children. As the widow, Lily chose not to bury Frank in the Anthony family cemetery but instead decided to lay him to rest beside Mary. She asked me if I minded. Now that I am worth billions, living a rich and happy life, love is no longer everything in my life. I had long let go of Mary, so how could I possibly mind? I just smiled and said, "That's nice." The devoted supporting character has finally waited for her leading man. Lily also smiled faintly, took her children's hands, and walked down the hill without looking back.